What's up everyone, my name is Spencer and welcome to my channel Epic Dreams, where I bring video games to life through the magic of dance. So today I'm going to take you behind the scenes of our second concept video based on the game Castlevania Dawn of Sorrow from the ever so popular franchise Castlevania. For those of you who don't know, Castlevania is a long-standing video game franchise that dates all the way back to 1986 when the first title of the franchise, Castlevania, was introduced and developed for the classic NES. And while the franchise is now pretty much dead, which by the way is a whole story on its own, it actually had a very long and successful run during the late 90s all the way through the late 2000s, and was actually so good that it recently inspired a Netflix original, which by the way is still waiting for season 4. Now I can go on for days about what made this franchise so successful during that time, but to keep a long story short, I think the one factor that really inspired me to create this dance video is the direction that this franchise took in terms of its storyline. So what I'm referring to is that traditionally, most of the older Castlevania titles featured a very generic formula to its plotlines, which is that some member of the Belmont clan goes to Dracula's castle to eventually fight him as the final boss and foil his evil plans. So realizing that this formula can get old very quickly, the franchise actually started to innovate and expand into newer characters and storylines. So in 2003, they introduced a game called Castlevania Aria of Sorrow, which features a young teenager by the name of Soma Cruz, who I play in this dance video, who somehow gets mysteriously transported to Dracula's castle. Now, without revealing a major spoiler in this title and in this franchise, this is actually one of the first times in the series that Dracula actually isn't the main antagonist of the story. And as a result, you come to realize that this is actually a very cool and interesting story of redemption, which deviates from the traditional storyline of, oh, a good guy kills a bad guy. And this plotline, along with all the other cool elements that made it successful, were so good that they decided to create a sequel to this game called Castlevania Dawn of Sorrow, which is what this dance video is based on. And it was precisely this depth to the characters and the storyline that was inspired to create this dance video. Now, Dawn of Sorrow was actually the first Castlevania game that was introduced to Nintendo DS, so not only was it a huge step up for the franchise in terms of graphics and gameplay, but the music, which by the way was already dope enough as it is for this franchise, was actually just taken to a whole other level. And the song that's featured in this dance video called Pitch Black Intrusion is just one example of this entire masterpiece of a soundtrack. So this concept video brings to life one of the first cutscenes of the game where you get to play as Soma and meet up with his allies Julius and Yoko, who in this video were played by fellow dancers Michael and Ksenia. And one of the biggest challenges of creating this video, aside from the dancing and the choreography, was finding a location that brought the scenery to life, because it takes place in a snowy village. So given all of the challenges that we had with COVID and with lockdowns, we actually had to be very creative in the overall production of this video, which included everything from social distancing to finding the materials to put the costumes together, or even just being able to go in store to find the materials, to making sure that we could get this done before the winter was over because I really wanted to get that snowy background. Now, fortunately enough, we were able to put this together in time, but I have to say it was definitely one of the best learning experiences I've had. So if you haven't seen it, you can check it out here, or if you have, then stick around and I will take you behind the scenes of how we put this together. Stay tuned. Okay, so this is the Soma Cruz costume, about 80% done. I made it a little bit more form-fitting because that's actually how he wears it in the game. I basically took a lab coat and added these little trims. So at the bottom here, normally you would use something called bias tape, but I actually just created this myself out of some fabric. Sewed it onto the bottom. This was originally medium, so I had to take it in to make it a little bit smaller. For these little cuffs, and I sewed it in, but I actually had to hand sew it so that you can't see the seam. Right? So you can see it's kind of seamless here. And then I had to add on these shank buttons, which you can see if you look at the picture. He has these little golden little things on the cuffs. So I kind of just cut in a little slit here, right? It's not exactly straight, it makes a little slit here. And then you add this button, so I had to hand sew all of this. Here's the collar. Again, added my own little trimmings at the ends. And then this little, I don't know what you call it, but it's like an extra little flap on top of the shoulders. Pretty difficult to make. I had to add these little belts on top of it, create this extra flap. It's a really weird shape, whatever, I kind of just guesstimated it, I guess. And then I added these belt loops, right? And these little fake pockets. They're not real, see? Ha. And this is the final product for Soma's coat. Took a really long time. I had to create a fake belt. And then this, in a perfect world, would have been the same color as this, or the same material, because this is metal or plastic, right? But this is just fabric that I sewed together. I've stuffed it with existing pillow stuffing. Obviously there's no, it's hard to find a metal shape or a plastic shape that's exactly like this that I can sew onto a fabric belt, so I had to make do with this, but that's fine. And then to match what you see in the belt is I bought a gray belt, sewed on the exact same fabric onto it, or not sewed, I actually just taped it, and then added these little tick marks here, as you'll see in the costume. Yeah, so this is what it looks like all together. And these are Soma's boots. You wouldn't be able to tell right now, but these boots were originally black. I used some leather paint to paint over them. Purposely designed the back to be blue, and then painted the bottom gray here. And I basically used duct tape to create this appearance of bootstraps, I guess. Took some cardboard, added some more duct tape to it, and just stuffed these inside the boot. And overall, it looks pretty good. This is the bare bones outline for the Julius costume. So this will be played by Michael. He's a little bit taller than I am, so I had to use myself a little bit as a model, but then add in a few inches. It's gonna be a pretty long coat. It's brown fabric. It's actually technically curtain fabric, but it was on sale for $2 a meter, which is really cool in the clearance section at Fabricland. And then I added my own black fabric to do the shoulder pads. To help make this Julius costume, I actually took an old black trench coat that I have and kind of mimicked that as a sewing pattern, but I don't know, I think it might be a little bit small, again, given that Michael is a little bit taller than I am, but it doesn't provide the right basic sewing patterns that I can leverage, but I will see. So for the sleeves, I did a first rough draft, but you can see this one's actually a little bit tight, I think, considering that I'm going to want him to be able to dance in this. I think it's going to be tight. He's going to be wearing some dress shirts underneath too, so this is going to be pretty tight. I have to redo this. I bought like 5 meters of this, and I'm probably going to end up using all of it because I had so many mistakes, and because it's such a freaking big ass jacket. Okay, so I sewed the sleeve a little bit bigger, and it's so much better. There's so much more room to move, and it doesn't feel tight in the armpits now. Compare that with the original one that I did. Look how much smaller that was. Yeah, super tight. Wouldn't have fit. Well, it would have fit, but it would have been probably how I would have to tear a few threads, so I think this is much better. Alright, and here is the finished jacket for Julius Belmont. So I included this collar here and put some belt within 2 pieces of brown fabric to give it a little more stability so that the collar gets popped. I added these little buttons, added these buttons on the sleeves, and then added these faux pockets here, as you can see. And then basically created this little lapel just by pretty much folding it and ironing it down. Yeah! And here's the vest. So this was originally an extra large yellow dress shirt, but I just made some modifications, so I obviously cut off the sleeves and hemmed them, and then I added these dark grayish, almost black pieces of fabric just to make it look like the inside is black, but you won't actually be able to tell because we're only going to show this part. And then I changed the buttons, so I removed the old transparent buttons and added my own black buttons, and then I basically trimmed the bottom of the shirt and folded it in to create this sort of vest look. Pretty cool, right? So for the pants, I bought these pants at Value Village, and they were literally the last one at the end of the rack, and they were only $7. And basically what I did, well, nothing really. I washed it, and then I hand sewed these little weird fake leather pieces of fabric onto the crotch area, because that's what the character has. Unfortunately, it turned out a little bit uneven. This one's a little bit higher than this one, but whatever. It's not perfect, but it looks the part, so. This is the dress for Yoko. I basically had to trace out the bodice here using a shirt of mine that was more fitted. And then for the skirt area, I basically took one of Cindy's formal black dress skirts, traced out that shape. And then I added some of this yellow elastic. It's kind of weird because it has this like frayed, twilled edge. So I took this and I trimmed off all the edges, as you can see here, and created a huge mess. Oh, and then the collar here obviously was traced from a turtleneck. This is the white belt for Yoko, a cheap find that I found at $4. You can't tell, but the waist size is pretty huge, which is why these holes are all the way here. So what I did was I created these new holes, basically drilled a bunch of them. You can see they're not perfect. And then I painted the ends here so that it matches the costume. And we're all done. I've added the faux zipper and the buttons, which I hand sewed, right? You can see here. These two little buttons here. Hopefully this will fit Ksenia when she actually tries it on, because she's gonna have to pull this over. There's no zipper or anything. But this material does have a lot of stretch, right? So hopefully it works.
One, 2, and 4, 5, and 6, and 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Nice! We're just doing our photo shoot now and putting on our costumes. I forgot my belt, but look at these two. Killing it already. I'm just happy that everything fit. Michael's trying to put on his mustache and goatee, and it just keeps falling off. Look at that.
When you take pictures, just don't
And we have our backdrop set up with the ring light and the other two lights, and our production guy will. Oh, you have an extra light.
Over here.
You gonna use it?
Oh, sweet.
We just finished our photo shoot. It actually took a lot longer than we expected. I had planned for it for half an hour, but it ended up taking an hour and 15. So we just skipped the warm-up, went straight into dancing. But you're basically going to use 5, 6, 7, 8 to get to your new spot. So you're going to place Michael, Michael's going to place me, I'm going to place you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, Good job, guys. Woo. So William and I are searching for location. Today is February 27th, and with the lockdown, we actually haven't been able to do a lot of things like rehearse in person, so we have to be very crafty with where we find a location that still has snow. So we're hoping this area will still have snow by next weekend. Fingers crossed. Yeah. It's now Thursday, March 4th. We're supposed to film in 2 days, but a lot of the snow has melted. So I came back to the forest to make sure that the snow is still here and that we can still film. So a lot of it is still here. However, it is extremely slippery. See all this ice? It's crazy. Can't dance on this. So I'm gonna take a look around, see if there's another pocket I could find, or if not, I might have to go further up north, like the Berry or something, because this is pretty dangerous. Right, so this is a trail in East Bloomsbury, which is just north of Newmarket. This looks like it has a little bit more evergreen trees and a lot more pockets where we can dance, and it's a lot less slippery because there's a little bit more snow built up, and I think this will fit the look a lot better. So yeah.
film day today, and the plan is to film my parts first for about an hour and a half, and then Michael and Ksenia are going to join us at 4:30. Hopefully by then it's a little bit darker. We were hoping that it'd be overcast, but right now it seems to be very sunny. They said it was going to be cloudy with sunny breaks. We might just have to wait till the early evening when it gets a little bit darker, which will help us achieve that look.
So beautiful.
We had to change up some of the moves because Michael and Ksenia were slipping. Well, I was slipping too, but we were all slipping. I didn't bring a shovel, but probably would have helped.
Two, three, four, five. Sorry. 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4.
It's really this gets stuck in the snow. But I'm sorry.
I messed up.
Okay, Spence already fell. That was good until you didn't grab the... Oh, you missed the cape part, but...
Sorry. That's it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like what you see, feel free to subscribe or let me know in the comments what you think, because this is all still very new to me and I would love to hear your feedback as I continue to bring more of these stories to life, especially given that there's so many video game franchises that I've yet to explore on this channel. So stay tuned for more content, and thanks again.